One of the questions that I get all the time is how to create a combo box that only shows options based on a selection in another combo box. For instance, here in our Add Customer form, we have combo boxes for cities and one for states. Not every combination of city and state are valid. For instance, I wouldn't want anybody to be able to choose Los Angeles and Connecticut. What I need to do is filter the city list based on selections made in the state combo box. This is called a cascading combo box, and it's surprisingly easy to set up. To do that, I'm going to take my Add Customer form and switch it into Design View. Then we're going to go ahead and edit the query that's built behind this city combo box. I'll click on the city box here, and on the Data tab, I'm going to go to the row source. This is the query that generates those results. I'll click on that, and then choose the Build button over here on the right. What I want to do is add in a new column here called State. So I'll double-click on the State field from the Customers table, and that'll add a new column called State. I'm going to add a filtering criteria to the state field. So it's not pulling all the states, but only the ones that are based off this criteria. In the criteria section, I'm going to right-click and choose Build. And I'm going to come into my database here. We're going to go into my forms, into my loaded forms, into the Add Customer form, and we're going to choose the CBO state combo box. When I double-click on it, it's going to add the reference to that field up here in this box. It's going to say on the Form section, find the form called Add Customer. On the Add Customer form, find the box called CBO State. That's going to be the filtering criteria for this query. We'll go ahead and say OK, and we'll go ahead and close the query out. It's going to ask me if I want to save any changes, and I'll say yes. And let's go ahead and check it out. I'll switch to my form view, and I'll press Save and Close. It's going to ask me to save the Add Customer form. We'll go back in using the Add Mode button that we have built earlier. And if I choose a state here, for instance, if I choose Hawaii, then use my city box, and it only filters out to show me the cities in the state of Hawaii. Now, there's a problem with the way this is set up. For instance, if I change my state to a different state, for instance, if I scroll up here and choose Georgia, come back over to my cities, you notice that my city filter doesn't re-update. So what we need to do is add an option to update the city list whenever somebody chooses a new state. Let's go ahead and build that in. I'll right-click on my form, and I'll choose Design View. It's going to tell me my values aren't valid, so I'll just go ahead and say OK, and we'll say yes to close the database object anyway. Now what I want to do is go into my state field here. I'll click on that, and I'm going to go into the Event tab. In the Event tab, I'm going to go into the After Update section. This will be an event that fires any time that the combo box is updated. For instance, when somebody chooses a new state. We're going to build a new action here. So after update, I'm going to click Build, and we're going to choose to use the macro builder. Go ahead and say OK. Now the macro action that I want is called requery. I'll go ahead and type requery in there, and it wants to know which control we want to requery. In this case, we want the CBO city field to requery. That'll generate a new query based off of whatever selection we make in the state column. Let's go ahead and close the macro. It's going to ask us to save changes. I'll say yes. And now let's go ahead and check it out. Let's go ahead and save. We'll switch into form view. Over here on the right, I'll save and close, and then we'll reopen it one more time. Now if I choose a state, this time I'll choose Illinois. I can see all the cities in Illinois. If I change to a new state, Missouri, I can see the cities in Missouri. Now there's one other thing that I want to add in here. One more time, let's press Escape to clear out these values. I'll press Save and Close, and we'll go back into Add Customer. Now if I come in here and I go to the city field before I go to the state field, you notice that the city field is blank. I might want to have it where if I haven't chosen a state yet, it shows me all of the cities. But then once I choose a state, it'll filter to just those cities. Let's build that in. I'll right-click on this form. I'll go into Design View. It will modify the query that's generating the results here in the city column. Once again, I'll go to the Data tab, the row source, which is where that query lives. I'll click on the Build button. And this time I'm going to go over here to the criteria, and I'm going to add in a few pieces of code. Let's right-click on it and say Zoom to open that up in a bigger box so I have more room to type. In fact, let me change the font size as well. I'll choose Font and change it to 12 point. That makes it a little bit bigger and easier to see. Now I'm going to use a couple of wildcard characters in here to modify this particular criteria. I'm going to write in the word like, and then in quotation marks, I'm going to put a single asterisk and then an ampersand. And at the very end, I'm going to do the same thing, ampersand, and then a single asterisk. This is adding a couple of asterisk wildcards that say basically that I'm going to filter this list to anything that is like our CBO state name. And if nothing has been chosen yet in our CBO state name combo box, then it's going to pull out everything. It's saying anything and whatever we've chosen and anything after that. If we haven't chosen anything, then it's going to choose everything. Okay, let's go ahead and press the OK button here. That'll update our criteria, and we'll save, and we'll close, and we'll close, and we'll save, and we'll go into our main menu one more time. We'll press the Add Customer button. Now we can see if I use my drop-down list, I get all of the cities, but as soon as I choose a state, this time I'll choose Alabama, we can see just cities in Alabama. So that's how to set up a cascading combo box. Once you know the name and path of the combo box, in this case, the CBO state on the form Add Customer, you can make use of that as a filtering criteria in the query that generates the second list. Then apply a requery macro to update the list, and you've got yourself a cascading combo box that only shows the valid choices based off of another selection.